you are dyslexic. You cannot do it. That's what he knew. And that's what his parents said. And everyone at school, family. And what did he do about it? Did he just stay there and waited for a miracle to happen? Well, today, this same person who was said to be dyslexic, he is one of the most famous coaches ever. Not only that, Christopher Dedeyan is a peak performance coach, a professional speaker who speaks in front of 1, 2, 3,000 people in schools, universities. And he's a member of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, NLP practitioner, vice president of education, Toastmasters Southwest Verdun member, and so much more. How could he do all this? How come he's that strong person? Persistence? Power? Miracle? Well, I'm not gonna say a lot because he is today with us. And I'm so proud to have him, because he will tell you that if he was dyslexic at 8, and today he is who he is, on stages, inspiring thousands of people and much more with his programs. Imagine what you can do. Hello, welcome, Chris. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much, Natalie. I'm doing great, and I love the intro. The only thing right off the bat, I just have to say, you mentioned that I did have some people that were maybe doubting me, but the only people that did not doubt me, not even only, but the main people that did not doubt me were my parents. So you mentioned that in the beginning. Actually, my parents have always supported me, so I just want to say that.
Yeah, we want to make it very action that they did not doubt you, but they knew what's going on. So even though, you know, we wanted to bring to people the idea that they know he's dyslexic, so what's next?
Yes.
So I'm sure that you would have not done this, everything that you done without them.
100%. And there was doubt, like you said, like I've had several conversations with my parents when I was young, and they found out. They were like, oh my God, how is this going to go? How is he going to turn out? Is he going to be able to finish school? Is he going to be able to get a high school diploma? And so on and so forth. For sure, there was some doubts, but they've always been there to support me. So yeah, I definitely.
Amen to that. So I'm so happy to have you on my show today. Guys, you know, I'm your host, Natalie Restokian, and we are You Can Do It Today, You Can Do It Too, and with Christopher Dedeyan. But today we're not going to talk about dyslexic things, because we can know if Christopher overcame that, you can do that too. But there is a very important question, because Christopher is the child of immigrant parents.
Yes.
And how can he do it? I want to ask him this question. It's very important to know about the struggle. Do you have any struggle? How does it happen? What can you tell us about that?
So that's a great question on the aspect of like the immigrant background. And just like anything, I thoroughly believe that there is, you know, great positivity that comes out of this. And there are some things that are a bit more negative, and not to say negative in really in a bad way, but there's some things that you have to learn and navigate towards. And if we talk about navigation, the reality of the matter is, when I decide to do certain things, especially in the entrepreneurial world, especially going out more of the structured idea of what your parents are looking for, which would be go to school, get a degree, get a job, get married, and so on and so forth. And then you do something a bit different. It takes a moment for your parents to kind of adjust to that, especially within the immigrants. And why am I saying especially within the immigrants? Because they have learned through their parents and through generations that that is what success is. So as you go in different directions, especially being here in North America, in Montreal and Canada more specifically, there's more opportunities readily available to us compared to where my parents came from. So my father is Armenian descent. He actually was born in Armenia, immigrated here. He went through the Soviet background when Armenia was a part of the Soviet Union. And my mom, Armenian descent as well. She was actually born in Lebanon. I know that, Natalie, you have a lot of background there as well.
Oh, yes, I do.
So in Armenian, we say Lipanahai. So that's what,
yes.
Exactly. So that's what she was. So she immigrated through, unfortunately, the wars and going from one place to another. She went from Lebanon to Benin in Africa to the United States. And then my parents met over here in a marriage, in a wedding, and they got married afterwards after they met in Montreal. So they went through different realities. Like I said, I was blessed to be born here. Both my parents fought to be here in some way, shape, or form for me and my sister to have the opportunities we have. But they come with different understandings. Somebody that has
understanding, excuse me, but
yeah.
you're just telling me that about these understandings when they're coming to these countries and you are born here and they expect everything that they had over there so that Chris will do the same things. For
Yes.
them, is this something because they fear society, or this is something that they really believe in, or because this is something that they are scared that once it's lost, you will be a lost child?
Okay. So once again, great question on this, and why I'm telling you this, because this is something that has subconsciously to people that go through that path. From I don't think they do it actively. It's because for them, for years, their parents have told them some things. For years, they've went through different experiences, so they assume certain things because they're coming from a different background, different experience. So that's why it really happens, and that's the reason why they go and they expect certain things that their parents were expecting within them, but that expectations that they've had within their reality and community and where they were born cannot be the same for us over here in North America. It just cannot. Just let's talk about, like I said, imagine my father born in Armenia. If you want to marry somebody that's Armenian, you have a better chance of doing it if everybody around you is Armenian, right? Towards as an immigrant, if you come here and your parents have this understanding or this want from you to marry somebody within your culture, it's more difficult because the accessibility of other people around you is more readily available towards you. So that's why certain ideas have to change. And granted, as people come here and as they immigrate and spend more and more time here, their mentality changes, their behaviors change because they're living
here. But the thing is that I see a lot of people who come from immigrant parents and they are here, and at some stage they are living double lives because they are torn between being who they want to be as Canadian. Yeah. Because they are Canadian. Of course, we're all Canadians because we speak the language, we respect the rules, we hold the passport, the Canadian passport, and we embrace it because we come from somewhere and Canada is embracing us and giving us this chance. But in the meantime, there's this fear not to break their parents' heart. And I'm not talking about children who are like 11, 12. They say, okay, if you just shout at me, I'm going to go and call the police. I'm just talking like maturing people who are like, finish universities, they go to work, but yeah, they live double life.
Yeah.
What is it about? Who do you blame?
So that's, once again, you're putting your finger on a very interesting subject.
Well, I want to put my finger on something very interesting.
You're doing a great job of it. And like I said, I thoroughly love this because I like to be brought into these situations to talk about these things, because this is real conversation that we definitely need to have, and especially, like I said, coming from immigrant backgrounds. And let me just state, I was blessed that my parents never put me in that situation. I was never living a double life when it comes to my immigrant background or the belief or what my parents was desiring of me as an immigrant kid towards what the North American life was giving me. But I do know, I have friends and I know people in my circle, and I actually coach people within that as well, that do have that double life towards, I want to respect what my parents are telling me with their vision and what they see as society, what they see as their kids should be, and what actually is happening within life. So if your question was, how does it happen or why does it happen? Once again, it happens because they come from different beliefs and they come from different perspectives. So as a kid, the best thing that I've seen, and I've had some moments that I've clashed with my parents, especially in the entrepreneurial journey side of it, and we'll talk about that if you want it in a few minutes. But what I have realized, the best way to go about it is for you as the kid or as a person to understand what is their perspective. Once you understand their perspective, you could be in a better position to understand, and then they will readily understand you. So first, before seeking to get understood, you have to understand. So once I learned that, me personally, I was able to have a better dialect with my parents, especially when it comes to certain places that we were rubbing, like shoulders, or like not rubbing shoulders, but like having this conflict in some way, shape, or form. In my case, was 100% in the entrepreneurial decisions that I've taken, essentially.
Okay, let's say I come to you. I'm a 25-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Not 46. Let's say not married, and I come to you as a coach, and I say, Chris, I'm having some problems with my parents. I mean, I'm having some problems because I'm scared. Every time I meet someone, they think that I'm going to marry him right away. I want to live my life because this is a country of freedom to make choices. I don't want to rush in. I see a lot of people who are married, though they are happy, some of them, but others are stuck because they have to. I mean, I want to face them. I want to tell them something. How can you help me, Chris?
So
what is your advice?
So that's a very loaded question, but the best way I could really explain that, or the way that I would answer that, and once again, it might sound cliche, but it really is what I thoroughly believe, is to go within. All answers are
How do
within.
you go in?
So when we go within, we're talking about to going within your own self. So to have massive clarity of what is your purpose, what do you want? And then once you have that real clarity, it's so powerful that nobody could repress it. So when people are going to the aspect, oh, I want to please this, but I want to do this, is because they don't have clarity within themselves. So forget about whatever outside world is telling you. Forget about what your parents are telling you. If you don't know what you want and you're not thoroughly protecting that, then you're going to have a hard time to face your parents within a decision or anything. Because the reality of the matter is, whatever happens on the outside of you, it could be a person, it could be a sheep. It really doesn't matter what it is. It's something outside that's triggering something within you. So what you have to do is go within and see, what is that trigger? Is it something that I should fix, and how should I fix it? And that's the most difficult work that you could do, because you're looking yourself in the mirror and you're putting yourself in such a vulnerable place to fix that problem. So that's the way I would answer that.
I mean, let's say this person knows, because sometimes, most of the time, it's like they know what they want, and what they want is to have a freedom of choice in their lives.
Yeah.
And do you think they can face their parents, and how do they make approach? I mean, what is your advice? Let's say I say, you know what? I'm not a virgin. I go out with guys. I party, whatever. I go on vacations, whatever, to party, not because I'm just want to relax with my friends in the room, blah, 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 etc. Is this the way? I mean, let's give them a tip. How do you prepare? Because most of the time, when you're in Canada, what you want is to breathe. And I look at them. I feel that they want to breathe, but in front of their parents, there's someone else. It means that they know. But what's the first step? How can they just bring up the subject? You know, because you just said a minute ago that if they know what they want. So I'm talking about most of them, they know what they want, but they don't know how to interact with the parents, because the parents might have a heart attack, or like, what? You know, or like, seriously, you're grounded. No, I cannot be, but, or I want to move out. Or a lot of people, they are like over 25, they're still living with their parents because
Okay, so there's many things to talk about there, and actually the last thing you said is the one I'm going to talk about, because that's my personal experience. So I could talk about my experience within that. So when it comes to coming to your parents and talking, first and foremost, like I said, like I previously mentioned, you have to really put yourself in the position of what is their background, what is their beliefs, and where they're coming from. Once you're able to see that, then you're able to respond in a different way. Because the reality of the matter is, just like our parents did the best job that they could with us, we're doing the best job we could with our parents, and their parents did the best job with their knowledge that they had within them. So we have to be aware of that. Now, when it comes to, like you just mentioned, like kids staying at your, especially immigrants staying at, like, you know, later ages in their 20s or whatever, that was actually 100% my situation. Like, I moved out, if I'm not mistaken, I was 28, 27, 28. And at that point, I was very successful in the brokerage industry as a real estate broker. And I was making a very significant amount of money. And I came to a point, I'm like, listen, this is not making sense. I'm selling houses and I'm selling these things that with mortgages with this, and I have this knowledge, but I don't even have my own mortgage. So I told my parents through a process of
How did you tell them? Please, give me the moment, the action. I mean, so you went in.
It's not necessarily a moment. It's several moments. It's just like they know, like you're growing up, like, okay, wait a minute. And you kind of talk about it slowly.
So when you have something to say to them, like immigrant parents, you give them little by little, I mean, small doses. That's what you're saying. Not like out of nowhere suddenly, right?
So obviously, right? Because they see their transition. They see your evolution as a person as well. And I remember when it came to the point, because I was mentioning it, and like, especially my father was like, he was kind of like pushing it away. I think he was denying it. And when I came to the point that, hey, Dad, listen, I'm actually moving out. And not only I'm moving out, I have all the capacity to move out. First of all, I'm a broker. I know how to find a property. Second of all, I'm financially extremely stable to do so. And I remember I had this conversation with him, and this is what he answered me. He's like, why are you moving out? I've never hit you. I've always put food in front of you, and you have a roof over your head. And it was so beautiful, because that was the way he was expressing the love, because he comes from a background of, you stay at your parents' house until you get married and move out. but that's not the reality of where we live in
So
North
what did you say?
America. So that's exactly what I explained. I'm like,
I
listen,
thought that you would say because I wanted to be beaten by you and you didn't, so I'm gonna experience another life.
so yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I want to get a bit more roughened up by life. No, that wasn't the case.
Half
So
love, half love.
what I mentioned honestly was, I'm like, listen, Dad, I'm like, you could understand that I'm at a point that I am literally a man. I'm in a position that I need this for the growth and the continuation of my evolution. I can't stay at my parents' house for the rest of my life. Now, granted, I'm blessed that I stayed there for that long because I was able to save money, be smart, start a business, and so on and so forth. And they always know I'm moved out and I'm a beautiful condo. I love everything, but they're still there supporting me. Like we'll always be their kids. And as I'm like seeing my sister become a mother and I have a niece and all that stuff, I'm always seeing this different side of things. I'm like, even as we become older and whatever age, your parents will always see you as their kids, which they should. So yeah, it was more an explanation.
Let's say we're not talking about parents like yours. We're talking about very strict parents. And do you blame them that bringing all these values that somehow they could be like pushing the children? They are coming here. I mean, how hard could it be on the child? And do you think that somehow the child will lose his or her way? Because you're talking that you're blessed and they could understand, but others, they would fear that. What happens to children like that?
So, okay. So the answer when you ask, like, can they lose their ways? There definitely is a risk for them to lose their ways if they're completely repressed by their parents with their old ideologies. Now, it really depends how much they repress them. But yes, anybody that gets repressed, child, human being, prisoner, or whatever, can lose themselves. And that's where it becomes extremely dangerous because, like you said, I know people around me like that have immigrant backgrounds, and they do live double lives towards whatever the reason, because they're living something that they don't want to tell their parents because they have a perception that their parents will believe X and Y and Z. So the reality matters. I'm going to take a step back here. You just have to be so true who you are and be ready to live your reality. And if that means you have to tell something to your parents and your parents are unhappy and maybe you lose them for a little moment, but you're living your reality, I feel like that's more important. Now, this is so much easier said than done. It is a process, but I thoroughly believe before anything, I will always be true to myself, like number one thing. So if imagine your ex, Y, let's just say hypothetically, I want to marry I don't know, somebody else that's not within my religion, Armenian, whatever, which like in my family, there's no issue at all. But imagine we're talking about a hypothetical situation that the parents will not allow that. And imagine I'm in love with this person. The first thing is I have to ask myself, is this somebody I want to live my life with? And if the decision is yes, then I tell that to these parents in question. But if they're not ready to be a part of that life, it's perfectly okay because I'm ready to be a part of this. And if, when they're ready, it will come. So the reality matter is the clarity on yourself and understanding where you're going with that in itself. So that's
and because it happened to me, like when I was marrying my husband, he died, like my parents said, oh, he's not Armenian. And I was in Lebanon and I had my TV show and everything. Like I said, excuse me? Yeah, he's not Armenian. I said, so I'm marrying him. And I came here. I mean, but now he speaks a little bit Armenian. It's not that, but I think that somehow, I don't know if this is a blessing or this is something toxic. If we just, I don't see what it is. I cannot define it to people who are born here. I mean, I was born in Lebanon. I break any rules. I'm the black sheep of the family. I mean, I wrote a book, a dark erotic tale. That's something else. But the thing is that when people are born here and they are raised here, and the generations who are now in their 20s and 30s and so on, and even they are stuck with family things. Do you think that, I mean, this is toxic, or we can see it as a blessing? Because there might be an identity crisis, right? Am I Canadian? Am I not? I have to do this. I have to do that. Or you can just take it in. How can you do it?
So let me just be very clear over here so I can answer the best way possible. Are you saying, is it toxic being an immigrant?
No, is it toxic for the children to be stuck in a situation like that? I mean, between parent and finding themselves in Canada, or they could use it as a blessing, as you said, like after a while, the parents
Okay.
could embrace them, etc.
So,
I mean, how can we see it? And
so
how can we put Christopher's advice in that?
okay, so once again, awesome to point that out. So the reality matters. I'm an optimist, and I always will be an optimist. It has served me, and we could even explain it in neurological ways. Being an optimist, how it could serve you in so much better way than being a pessimist in certain aspects. So I will always look at any scenario that we're going through, and knowing that there's going to be a silver lining on the back end. And if we just look at right now what's happening within our society, which we have this great chaotic vibration, which is the COVID and this and that and everything that's happening right now, there is going to be some positivity that's going to come out of it. Now, granted, is it dangerous? Is there some negativity? Yes. But at the end of the day, there is going to be positivity. So if you are a child of an immigrant that is repressed, man, that's teaching you how to be relentless. That's teaching you how to be tough. And then once you're able to deal with that, once you go in the real world and you become an employee, entrepreneur, and all that, you've learned so many skills subconsciously that translate to the real world that will be helpful for you. So I rather personally be not somebody that necessarily has a completely easy life, because I know so many people that have gotten an easy life from born to the older, and then once they come in the older world and they hit their first barrier, they give up. So I would actually.
Why do you think they give up? Because they have everything.
No, it's not because they have everything. It's because they don't have the muscle for that. So if I tell you, let's work on it like this. Imagine you go to the gym, right? And then you've been working out.
I don't know. I don't do sport, but I go with that.
Okay, so
I'm
just giving a hypothetical explanation here. So imagine, so imagine you're doing a curl, and you've been doing your curl with 30 pounds this whole time, and your muscles getting ripped to really develop that curl. So you've been getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And if I'm developing it, and if we do this analogy, this curl is the difficulties of your life, but you're just jacking it back and forth, your muscles will get bigger. So then when the next problem comes, your muscle is going to be less difficult to switch up to get the next, which is a 35. Towards if somebody's protected, has never picked up any weight, and then gets to a certain age, and then at the age they get like, hey, go back to the real world, and we give you a 30 pound, but they've never even started from the 5 to the 30, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is way too heavy, and they're going to give up right away, because they haven't had the process of figuring out what it is to be failing and then going forward and hitting a wall and going forward and readjusting.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm not going to go with the sporting because I don't know that, but I just think that in life it's true, because when you go into a lot of problems, I wrote it in my story too, that the muscles of your soul, they get trained. So yes. I think that as Canadian and all Canadian immigrants, I mean, in a country where there is diversity and we embrace each other and we just, we're Canadians and we love it. How much do you think that this will last? Is it something that will last forever, or there will be a time that this cycle of immigrant parent and the mentality, after some time, the cycle might break? Do you think?
Are we talking about the cycle of the repression here?
The cycle of being stuck between
the repression,
the immigrant parents' values, ethics. I'm not saying like to be definitely not knowing anything. I mean, just to be broken or to be stuck in the middle. This cycle, do you think that after some time, maybe after a couple of generations, this cycle might end or break or not?
So I don't think it will end. I think it will evolve. It's really a question of evolution. So how the evolution is, the further we get. So as Armenians, most of the Armenians that live in Canada are either first or second generation immigrants here. The reason why that happens is because of the genocide in 1915, and then there's immigrants. Now, if we look at our counterparts, let's say Italians that live in Montreal, they're fourth, fifth generation. There's a lot of kids that are my age that are Italian that do not speak Italian because there are so many more generations of Canadian living here. Towards us, we're second and third generation. So my parents come from immigrant backgrounds, so we speak Armenian now. But let's continue. Like I'm very let's say eloquent or even just okay in Armenian. I could definitely hold up a conversation. But as this continues, and if I imagine I don't send my kids to Armenian school and it's not something I develop, it's going to be lost more and more. Doesn't mean that they're not proud. Doesn't mean that they're not Armenian, Italian, or whatever you want. But there's certain things that will evolve. So it's definitely a question of evolution more than anything else. Yeah, it always will change. It will evolve as human beings.
And I would like to add to that, that we as Armenians or any immigrant, when we come to a country and we see these chances and the way they embrace us, we are so much more grateful than if it's given us for us like taken by granted, because we know the value of not having and now having, the value of not belonging and now belonging. And it's such a beautiful blessing when you see this. I know I'm not the guest, I'm just hosting.
No, please.
But you know, we're just talking and
I'm getting excited.
This vibe going on, you know.
Natalie, we're like right now, we talked about some of the negative aspects behind it, but we didn't even touch the positive, and that's exactly what you're talking about right here. And that let's walk into it. So first of all, you're absolutely right. Every single immigrant that comes here comes with a different vision and appreciation, because they know where they came from, which is war, repression, communism, or whatever the case is, and they're coming here. They're so much more blessed with the eyes of like, wow, look at this greatness. So that is actually transmitted to us. Now, what that transmits, it transmits a amazing work ethic. Like most of the immigrants work hard because they come from crazy backgrounds. They're coming here for a specific goal, which is to have a better life, to have a better dream. So they're willing to work. And what that creates within the generation of kids that are born here from immigrant parents, it creates great people that work hard. I actually read an article, this is several years back, and I just like a thought that I had in it. It was actually on the Wall Street Journal. And it said that most of the people that are CEOs and high placed in companies are either immigrant or come from immigrant backgrounds. And the reason why that is, what they were stating within this article, is that it's the work ethic that comes with it and the opportunities they see different. When we're coming here, we see opportunities different. And if somebody's born here throughout their whole life, they've lived here, so they take for granted the opportunities around them because they don't know what else to take to see. But if you take that same person and you bring them to like a third world country for a couple of months, when they're going to come back here, they're like, oh my God, why did I take this Canada or this country I live in for granted? So there definitely is that dichotomy, and there is a positive side coming from an immigrant background, 100%. And that's why I thoroughly believe I succeed in so many different ways.
It's so amazing, you know, because we have these people who are coming from outside and these people who are like okay with it, and the combination makes Canada great. It's
yes,
so amazing having this conversation with you. I wish we can talk for hours and hours and hours, but I know maybe very soon we might have other chances to meet and do more interviews. I'm so happy and very proud and grateful to have you with me today, Christopher Dedeyan, who is one of the most impressive peak performance coaches of Canada. Thank you so much. I take my hat off to you for everything that you have done and you're doing. And if you can do it, Chris, it means that the audience can do too. So what is your tip today to the audience of my show, You Can Do It?
So first of all, Natalie, thank you very much for those kind words. It thoroughly was a pleasure for me. I love our energy back and forth. We were definitely jumping left and right here. I thoroughly love it. Great question with everything here. So yeah, my advice is exactly that. Please don't put anybody on a pedestal, and understand, let's say you're watching somebody and you're admiring somebody towards, let's say, a professional athlete, let's say a singer, whatever the case is. Understand that you're looking at their step 85 and maybe you're on your step 13. They got through the process. So don't compare somebody's step 85 to your step 13. Just understand it is a process. Listen to yourself and trust yourself and allow yourself to enjoy the journey to get to that process. So that's the main thing I would say, because like you said, like, listen, there's nothing impressive about me. I've just put in the work to get where I am, and I'm putting into work to go where I want. So what I could tell as well for your audience, if they need any type of advice or want to potentially look at my coaching services or my speaking services, you can go see that at ChristopherDedeyan.com/coaching. I'm actually going to offer a free 30-minute discovery call for your clientele. You just have to go fill up a couple of questions. I'm going to get it through my team, and we'll set up a time to go for that.
Cool. Thank you. Yes. So as you said, he's offering 30 minutes for you, free, and that's very encouraging. Anyway, I am going to share his website with you guys, and you have any questions, you can contact him directly, Christopher Dedeyan. And if you have any comments, any other questions, or anything else you want us to discuss in the near future, please write below the video. Thank you so much for being with us, guys. We can all do it. And in the end, we are all Canadians. and we bring forth whatever we have, combine it together, and live in this beautiful country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you to everybody that's listening.